Some good news for borrowers with a mortgage or line of credit today. The Bank of Canada has cut its interest rate again to 3%. It's the sixth straight cut since June, largely aimed at lowering inflation. But Canada's economic outlook has changed since Donald Trump's threat of 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. Here's Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem.
We have three main messages this morning. First, inflation has been close to the 2% target since last summer. Monetary policy has worked to restore price stability. Second, lower interest rates are boosting household spending and economic activity is picking up. But third, the potential for a trade conflict triggered by new U.S. tariffs on Canadian exports is a major uncertainty. This could be very disruptive to the Canadian economy and is clouding the economic outlook.
Now, with that cut, the policy interest rate at 3% is the lowest it's been since September 2022. So now, with more on the impact of the latest rate cut and the potential challenges ahead, here's CBC's business reporter Scott Peterson.
The Bank of Canada had really a two-part press conference this morning. One, the announcement to lower interest rates a quarter point, pretty much as expected, down to 3%. That's the lowest the overnight rate has been since September 2022. And that, of course, is the rate that other financial institutions and banks borrow at. But the second part of the press conference was about tariffs, and the big question mark going forward as far as what can the Bank of Canada do to sort of strengthen and buffet the Canadian economy against the potential, the unknown potential of tariffs. First of all, sticking with what the Bank of Canada did, they lowered the overnight rate a sixth time down to 3%. And as you can see in this chart here, we saw a big, steep, historic increase of interest rates right after 2022 when inflation was up over 8%, and that was to subdue inflation. Now we're looking at a sixth downward movement by the Bank of Canada, bringing us to that 3% overnight rate. Now, why? There's a couple of different factors. One, inflation is all but under control. It's at 1.8% now. That's even below the Bank of Canada's guideline of 2%. So that seems to be smooth sailing for the foreseeable future as well, according to the report as well. We're also seeing unemployment continuing to rise, 6.7%. And that too is an indication that the economy's sort of stalling and needs lower interest rates, lower borrowing costs to stimulate the economy again. Now, all in that, the bank said overall the economy is balanced, in their words, that they see GDP growth coming in this year at 1.3%, next year a little bit stronger at 1.8%, and same as the year after. But also seeing an increase in household spending in the housing market in general, and also an increase in business investment as people take advantage of those lower interest rates. But the big question that Tiff Macklem, the Bank of Canada governor, was asked on time and time again is how is the Bank of Canada helping to prevent the economy from being rocked to its core by the potential of interest rates, saying that there was a major source of uncertainty in regards to those tariffs as far as when they're going to be imposed, how they're going to be imposed, how much they're going to be imposed, and saying that, quote, it would badly hurt the Canadian economy. Hardly an economic term, but big question marks, and also saying that they have little historical perspective as far as how an inflationary issue like a 25% tariff would hurt the economy. Went into that saying that it would cost more for costly imports. A lower Canadian dollar would also decrease our buying power for American products, and that's admitting that monetary policy cannot fight this. So a lot of uncertainty here from the Bank of Canada, sort of outlining it, saying that they are outreaching to a variety of organizations and businesses across Canada, keeping in perspective and keeping in conversation with them for the advent of the great unknown, if tariffs are being imposed, when they'll be imposed, and how much they'll be imposed, and how that will affect the Canadian economy. Lots of question marks, even from the Bank of Canada governor this morning. Scott Peterson, CBC News, Toronto.